Humanity has proven itself to be quite adept at making mistakes.
It feels like it was just yesterday when I put out my Dead Rising Needs a Remake video, a video where I made a prediction that there was a remake on the way purely because of Resident Evil 4 remake existing. And it happened. It was revealed on a random Wednesday in June of 2024, and when I got the notification on my phone, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. After 8 long years, there was a new Dead Rising something, and the collective joy I witnessed from the Dead Rising community when it was announced was nothing short of heartwarming. It was so nice to see so much universal excitement expressed from Dead Rising fans after so long, especially since the internet is such a cynical fucking hellscape. I was extremely happy, but I was also pretty weary of what I was seeing from the game. I'll get this out of the way now. I am the worst person to talk to about Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster because I am heavily blinded by my love for the original, something I cherish so much. So whenever I saw any change, no matter how big or small, regarding visuals, gameplay, sound, anything, my very narrow Dead Rising mind just viewed it as sacrilege. Looking back at my initial reactions, I was way more critical and nitpicky about this game than I had ever been with anything ever before. But despite my excessive bitching, I was glued to this game's pre-release material. I read every interview, saved every piece of promotional art, watched every individual character costume trailer 50 times over to analyze the models, the lighting, the environment, the voices, everything. I lost my goddamn mind when I saw that Nemesis trailer and they showed off the rocket launcher. And the cherry on top is that the game released on September 19th, the first day the game takes place. Say what you will or want about the game itself, but the marketing was absolutely flawless through and through. When September 19th, 2024 finally rolled around, I ended up beating the game twice within a week, and I had a lot to say. I really wanted to get a video out within the first 2 weeks of release, as it was a more relevant topic that would have greatly benefited my channel since I have the upload schedule of a hibernating bear. I wrote numerous scripts, recorded a bunch of audio, but I wasn't satisfied with anything I was producing because it felt like I was coming from a bitter and super reactionary place, which is not how I truly felt about the game. I felt like I was rushing things. I held off on the video so I could let the game sit with me longer and be able to better express my feelings about it. The 1-year anniversary of Deluxe Remaster rolled around a few months ago, and I thought that would be the perfect time for me to release a video on it. A year had passed, and I assumedly was wiser, so I slaved away at a massive 40-page script, got halfway through editing it, only to scrap it completely because I fell into the same pitfalls as I did in 2024. The original means beyond the world to me, and I didn't want to do it any disservice by releasing something about it that I wasn't 100% sure of, even if it's for its Deluxe Remaster. So after 3 entirely different periods of production and scrapping spanning well over a year, I finally feel comfortable expressing my thoughts on Deluxe Remaster. I want to start off with the visuals. For the most part, Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster is an absolutely gorgeous looking game. The overhauls to the textures and lighting on top of adding an insane amount of environmental details result in a game that still takes my breath away at times. Willamette Mall is stunning as hell. Every area got a makeover, some more than others. Paradise Plaza really leans into the aquatic side of things, now having moody blue gradients cascading all over the plaza, fitted with a lot of extra props and decorations. Stuff like the vending machines and the benches next to the entrance plaza entrance, the boat-related items on the wall, and this entirely new dolphin statue in the fountain right outside the entrances of Leisure Park and the movie theater. Movieland's retro aesthetic has been greatly enhanced with an emphasis on neon, making it more atmospheric than before. Wonderland Plaza, oh my goodness. The first time I saw the exhaust of the Space Rider, I was foaming at the mouth. The exhaust blooming reds blew my mind because that wasn't a thing at all in the original. That's not even mentioning all of the extra star-themed string lights, the different colored balls hanging from the skylight, and the shortcut between Paradise and Wonderland now having a ladder with the ceiling propped open. The food court now has debris on the floors and tons of embellishments on the walls with posters and signage. It's also doused in this eye-watering amber lighting that only gets better when it is dawn. Alfresco looks absolutely gorgeous at night. Entrance Plaza and North Plaza didn't change a whole lot, but they got some cool touches with hollow boards, string lights, and light-up signage. What I didn't expect to see in the game, however, was Leisure Park after sundown. Yeah, it has more vegetation and defined elements, but I don't really care about that. Seeing the outdoor lights actually emit light past sundown was like getting flashbanged. I'm so used to the park looking a lot more flat and eerie when the lights were on, so seeing Leisure Park having these pockets of light thanks to the lamps and the little path lights that are around that flicker from time to time, I honestly think they made this area creepier. With zombies around during this time, I actually think it's a lot more unsettling than before. I also love how pitch black the game is when you're outside in Leisure Park or Alfresca at night. That was something I wanted to see in a potential remake of the game, and it's so cool that it's here. And the machine guns having flashlights attached to them is way cooler than ever before. The indoors at night are a bit of a different story, but I'll get to that soon. It's really cool that the mall got a bunch of new touches to make it feel more lived in as compared to the original, which was way more surreal with how halogenic and untouched everything was, which isn't a knock against either one, don't get me wrong. I think it's dope as hell that these two games have completely different feeling Willamette malls. Every character in the game got new models with more expressive faces than ever before. I like quite a few of them. I think Jessie looks great. I dig that Isabella's new look is based on her original concept art, although I do prefer her original look. I think Adam looks sick as fuck. His intro cutscene with the new lighting makes him look way more terrifying than ever before. And I appreciate that a lot of the zombies and survivors were given a lot more time in the modeling department, giving them new details, while also adding some of the cut zombie models from the original, which is cool as hell too. Like I said, for the most part, I think this game is visually ridiculous. Some of the best lighting work I have ever seen in a video game. It's super hard to see these two games side by side and not be in awe of the mall, because I never envisioned it could ever even look like this. On a technical art level, this is insanely impressive. When it comes to the mall, I have very few complaints. In fact, the only ones I have when it comes to the mall's makeover are that every open corridor is either walled off by a door or tattered shutters, which I think is a bit weird both visually and gameplay wise. The AI upscaling for some textures is really fucking bad. Just genuinely appalling to witness, given that this game has an amazing art team that did all the lighting, model, and texture overhauls, yet can't be utilized to do these things. Were they just not worthy enough or something? I just don't get the decision here, especially when certain items are this blatant. And this very odd instance of yellow paint in the food court. This is the only yellow paint in the entire game. I don't know why it's here. It makes no sense in the context of the game that someone went out of their way in the mall to write this just for Carlito's boss fight. Like, what? But aside from that, I still find really cool differences to this day, like the start menu in the remaster having flipped over cars and knocked over shopping carts. Little stuff like that fascinates me really easily. But I also think that Deluxe Remaster wasn't able to fully translate the original's visual language over well, starting with the color. The original is a very colorful game where they had to make a lot of smart and coordinated color choices because there was little to no dynamic lighting in the game to speak of. It's one of the most underrated elements of Dead Rising 1 if you ask me. But in Deluxe Remaster, almost everything is surprisingly more washed out. There's so many faded colors to gel with the new lighting, and I think it lessens the visual juxtaposition of a bright, vibrant mall being infested with blood, gore, and zombies because colors don't stand out as much. Is that to say Deluxe Remaster is colorless by any means? No, absolutely not. Certain areas at certain times can exude color. Like there's way more color dynamics going on at the same time here than the original. But the way it's graded and lit in areas can result in a lot of inconsistencies as to when it is vibrant and when it is not, which varies depending on which plazas and stores you compare. I can't give the same grace to the blood, however, because I think the blood in this game is a massive step back. Blood in the original had a visceral viscosity to it, having weight and volume, but now it's just monochromatic red, which definitely hampers a good chunk of the scenes in the game considerably. Where blood used to meticulously spatter, now it just instantly splats, which I think looks way less interesting. Everything blends in now in a way that feels a bit odd, and I think that's because the game is too clean for its own good. Everything has been touched up to look as pristine as possible. From all the insane amount of inorganic lighting sources and cutscenes, to the overall lighting and colors in between areas being pretty ubiquitous, affecting two of them in my humble opinion, those being the tunnels and the butcher shop. The tunnels in the original game felt like a completely different world in comparison to the plazas up above. It's a darker, gloomy place to be in where you can't see that far ahead of you, so headlights are kind of your best friend down here. Until they aren't when you see Carlito pop out of nowhere during the bomb collector mission. It's a spooky place, but in the remaster, it is way brighter now. You can see one end of the tunnel from another pretty easily. It's nowhere near as intimidating of a place to be in. Because of how bright it is now, I think it soils Brad's death dramatically. In the original, when you go back in the tunnels to look for him, his flashlight is a beacon, one that beautifully illuminates the keep out hazard sign, which is what Brad says to Frank when he discovers them. There's layers to this, it's super cool. Finding an undead Brad works extremely well in this scene because of how dim the tunnels are. You can only see what Frank is pointing at with the flashlight, which accentuates the horror of revealing Brad's stomach oozing out of his body. In the remaster, his flashlight is barely visible on the ground, and his actual death scene isn't anywhere near as messy or as disturbing as before because you can see so much of him. The overt brightness is an issue that I think persists into the mall at night. Any way you slice it, at night, Deluxe Remaster is much darker visually than the original. The emphasis on darkness is much greater and makes it harder to see zombies in the distance, which is very evident if you compare how the food court, leisure park, and Alfresco Plaza look at night. Like I said earlier, this is something I really wanted to see in a potential remake of the game, and it's cool that I have that in a few places. But the other plazas have so many light sources everywhere to the point where it's not all that spooky. Paradise, the North Plaza, just watch me walk into Wonderland Plaza after dark. It is insane how much light there still is. I know the original game is not pitch black since some areas had night lights that weren't very noticeable because the game doesn't have very many lighting sources, but it's still quite scary to go out after the lights get cut off, even with the spotlight that follows Frank around. In Deluxe Remaster, I think it would have been creepier and even more unsettling to traverse the mall at night if there weren't so many light sources that were soiling the mood. A bit of a missed opportunity if you ask me. Then we get to the butcher shop, and it used to be a disgusting ass place to be in thanks to the rotting color palette and the tint that it had. On top of that, you throw in a butcher wearing days old clothes with mixes of fresh and rotting blood spattered all over him. You could almost smell how rancid this place was through your screen. In the remaster though, it is lit and colored exactly as every other place in the mall, so it doesn't stand out much. The butcher now wears extremely white clothes with not a ton of blood on him, almost as if he had a functional washer and dryer down there. Speaking of the butcher, I might as well transition over to the character models. I applaud how much work went into remodeling, adding more details and facial animations into every character, but there's quite a lot of them that have lost their edge and uniquity because any and all imperfections have been completely ironed out. One of the coolest things about Dead Rising's characters visually to me was their imperfections. Black heads, asymmetrical hair, fucked up teeth, they did a lot to personify the human element of the first game. These weren't supermodels, these were ordinary people who weren't the most hygienic or well kept, but they were living their lives in a quiet town before hell came to visit. In the remaster, however, everyone has been buffered and spit shined to a T. Larry over here has been completely overhauled, and I know that his original look came under fire for being an egregious Chinese stereotype, but he lost his creepiness factor hard. For what it's worth, I never saw him as a caricature. I saw him as a dude who was probably an amazing and chill person to hang out with who lost his mind when the zombies came, and he clung to the sole thing he thought would make people happy the most in an effort to get them back somehow. That's probably the reason why he wouldn't sell his customers zombie meat. Now, he's just not that. I know, exact same dialogue, but his professional look no longer has that aura about him, if you know what I mean. Carlito also suffers from looking too clean, which I know sounds fucking stupid because 1, his design is super faithful to the original and his initial concept art, and 2, he is so goddamn gorgeous, oh my goodness gracious. The eyeliner, the creamy brown skin, those pristine eyes, silky smooth hair, chatted out jawline, so sharp and chiseled it could cut through adamantium. Flawless teeth, so white and shiny, he's the opening act for Chip Skylark's Shiny Teeth and Me concert tour. He is so absurdly beautiful, man, it hurts. But that's kind of my issue with him. In the original, he was already a handsome dude, but what made him stand out so much to me was how much pain and anger was written on his face due to Santa Cabeza. You could see it from the moment you saw him on the helipad. He looked like he couldn't sleep because of his rage, and it aided his character so well. His darkened eyes in the original make such a huge difference. But now that he's so fucking fabulous, a lot of his core moments just don't work as well as they did before in my opinion, especially his death scene. It's just nowhere near as visually captivating as before. Plenty of other characters also look too clean for my liking. Cletus was once a rugged man with fear-crazed eyes. Now he looks pretty standard, even got a nice hairstylist to do his hair for him. Cliff went from an elderly, gentle giant to a big-ass military jarhead. Kent, Steven, Paul, the Sniper family, Brock, even the cultists lose their mysteriousness since you can see their eyes now. I know that sometimes having visible pupils is creepier, but I just don't think it works well for them in this instance. On top of the fact that their prayer stance has changed to a third eye point, which just looks like they're fans of the baby.
Let's go. Let's go.
Brad was a visibly hardened DHS agent, and now he looks younger than Frank. Speaking of, I tried really hard for a while, but I just don't jive with how Frank looks in this game. I understand that his initial design was that he was supposed to look the opposite of how a main character usually looks, with him being more traditionally quote-unquote ugly, which is pretty apparent when you see his beta design. Receding hairline, very stark facial features, and visibly older. To a degree, I do like that they took this opportunity to explore that initial design, similar to Isabella, but I think they hit the jackpot with his original look. Clearly middle-aged, but still a hothead with tons of fight and fire, ready to spew at a moment's notice. But now that he's a bit more geriatric and visibly experienced, I feel like it detracts from what he is actually saying in a way. If this was his off-the-record Deluxe Remaster look, I think it'd be perfect. Like, I'm not even shitting you, it's literally perfect. It's just that in this game, it looks off when compared to the original. Even though his dialogue is the same, him looking the way he does gives his words a different sensation than it did before. I know that the voices play a huge part in that, but I'll get to that soon. The visuals have their highs and lows for me. However, I wish I could say the same about the presentation, which I think took a huge nosedive in the remaster. I mentioned in my initial video that Dead Rising's presentation was the unsung hero of that game, accentuating and complementing so many elements of the game to give it a very unique weight and vibe, while also being very thematic. The news channel UI in the original was genius, with the ticker at the bottom displaying what Frank earned as he leveled up, the huge breaking news text fitted with a sound cue in the middle of the screen whenever something happened with the scoop or survivors, the pause menu being formatted like a TV news guide, the spinning red globe during loading screens to give the situation a greater sense of dread and importance, almost as if this was ground zero for future evils, no matter what happens. Not to mention the loading screens that were pictures with bloodstains, shearing blood red stills of psychopaths, numerous articles and headlines with your in-game photos, pamphlet pictures of the mall, film reels of Frank's moves, all of these things to give off the impression that someone was living through the events of the game later down the line through the photos and articles. It was outstanding. It was an amazing way to thematically tie in Frank's photojournalist background with everything else. And of course, the timer ticking down every time you load in between areas, letting you know that you don't have as much time as you thought you did, that time is breathing down your neck, that time is truly unforgiving. I highlight all of these things because without them, the game feels like it is missing a lot. And that is exactly the case in Deluxe Remaster. Every loading screen is a blacked out screen with no bloodstained photos, no articles showing your in-game photos, which is weird considering how much they added to taking photos in the game. There is no spinning red globe. There is no news channel UI of any kind, which is replaced with really static holographics whenever anything happens. There is no timer on screen anymore when you load into an area. So even though the timer length between these two games are the same 5 minutes an hour, it doesn't feel anywhere near as pressing as it did before. This is a really small thing that I know no one will care about. Very nitpicky on my end, I know. But I find it really weird that the game doesn't micro-freeze before going into new areas or starting cutscenes anymore. That might have been a technical limitation at the time, but I thought it was really cool that time stops for these things to happen, showing how important these events are. But now it just quick fades to black and very, very unimportant, I know, but I still wanted to mention it. The pause menu also got overhauled, and it's kind of a mixed bag for me. It's very RE engine-like. It's not very Dead Rising-y to me for the most part, although I do appreciate the new image-based stylings around the case files and Survivor Notebook. I think they're cool. In general, though, the UI has been watered down to be more sleek and modern, and as a result, has completely lost its charm for me. It's pretty standard, with each mission now having mini descriptors in the top left hand of the screen, and these speech squares that pop up whenever an NPC talks. I greatly appreciate that the game has more dialogue, but this looks off. I know you can turn these off in the settings, but it still looks off. Part of the presentation is also the sound, both in voice acting and sound effects. Starting off with voice acting, it doesn't, I don't jive with it, I'm sorry. None of the original voice actors return to reprise their roles. Every character, including the survivors, got a new voice. And as someone who has played the original many times, every line and delivery is seared into my brain, so anything that sounds even a slightly bit different is going to be deemed wrong in my head. I pushed through that feeling to give the new voices a shot, and I just couldn't come around. I don't envy the new voice actors who are tasked with voicing over the characters here because they were trying their best to emulate their predecessors. But it's hard, man. It's hard. It's a monumental task to try and live up to these performances from the original.
I don't allow vandalism in my store! I don't allow vandalism in my store!
The new voices themselves have little to do with my issues with the game's voice acting because it's really the voice direction that I have a gripe with. 99.9% of the original's dialogue is being performed here. I'll talk about that 0.1% soon enough. This entire game sounds like an anime English dub of the original. The original, by the way, was solely in English to begin with, so a lot of lines just don't carry over well in terms of characterization or delivery or tone. For example, Brad's voice is now way more puff your chest out, like he is actively trying to be intimidating.
You're one hell of a journalist, aren't you, Frank? A hot-headed, underhanded, hotshot paparazzi with nothing better to do than to invade people's privacy.
As opposed to his original voice that had a commanding presence, yet a soft warmth to it.
You're one hell of a journalist, aren't you, Frank? A hot-headed, underhanded, hotshot paparazzi with nothing better to do than to invade people's privacy.
The psychopaths are also greatly missing that grit to them.
Don't shoot! Look, let's talk this over.
You can talk to my 12 gauge. Don't get no closer, or I'll blow you all to kingdom come.
Don't shoot. Look, let's talk this over.
You can talk to my 12 gauge. Don't get no closer, or I'll blow you all to kingdom come. Damn, mister. Come on now. What are you, crazy? You want guns so bad that y'all are willing to kill for them? Damn, mister. Come on now. What are you, crazy? You want guns so bad that y'all are willing to kill for them?
Who's there? Stay back! Stay back! Get any closer and I'll light this place up! I suppose you came here to laugh at me too! Who's there? Stay back! Stay back! Get any closer and I'll light this place up! I suppose you came here to laugh at me too!
Think you can pull it off, Thomas?
But Daddy, he ain't no zombie. He's just a man.
Thomas! We're doing this to survive. You know that.
Using a firearm for self-defense is our God-given right as Americans, Thomas.
Come on, Thomas, shoot. Shoot him.
Shoot him,
I
Thomas!
said shoot him. Shoot him, Thomas. Now. What are you waiting for? Do it!
Think you can pull it off, Thomas?
But Daddy, he ain't no zombie. He's just a man.
Thomas! We're doing this to survive. You know that.
Using a firearm for self-defense is our God-given right as Americans, Thomas.
Come on, Thomas, shoot. Shoot him.
Shoot him, Thomas!
Said shoot him. You, Thomas. Now! What are you waiting for? Do it!
Then we get to Frank, and yeah, his deliveries just don't hit the same. He sounds like a completely different character. His voice direction in this game is a lot more laid back as opposed to before when he was consistently a snarky douchebag with a heart. Even though he's saying the same stuff, it gives off a completely different vibe.
Yeah, well, I don't think they had zombie-infested malls in mind when they wrote those regulations, kid.
You know how to use this?
Kinda. I've covered wars, you know.
Yeah, well, I don't think they had zombie-infested malls in mind when they wrote those regulations, kid.
You know how to use this?
Kinda. I've covered wars, you know.
Okay, we'll have to talk about this later. You know how to use that gun?
I've never fired at a person.
Are you up to it?
I'm a lot better with a camera. But yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Okay, we'll have to talk about this later. You know how to use that gun?
I've never fired at a person.
Are you up to it?
I'm a lot better with a camera. But yeah, I'll give it a shot.
So, I just want you to appreciate the situation.
Well, we're up to our necks in zombies. Yeah, I think I appreciate the situation just fine.
So, I just want you to appreciate the situation.
Well, we're up to our necks in zombies. Yeah, I think I appreciate the situation just fine.
Not on my watch! Someone's been hurt. I need medicine.
Not on my watch! Someone's been hurt. I need medicine.
Officer. Officer, can I talk to you for a minute? I mean, look, what did that woman do? This seems a little,
Shut your pie hole!
Officer. Officer, can I talk to you for a minute? I mean, look, what did that woman do? This seems a little, extreme.
Shut your pie hole!
Is he insane?
if that bomb goes off, there'll be nowhere to run. The zombies will be everywhere.
Is he insane?
If that bomb goes off, there'll be nowhere to run. The zombies will be everywhere.
You collapsed on the roof.
I collapsed? No,
You collapsed on the roof.
I collapsed? No,
Although I just showed you a bunch of line comparisons, there is one I really want to highlight, which is what he says after Carlito dies. As Carlito gives Frank the responsibility of delivering his farewell gift to his sister, Frank is just a stirring, boiling pot of emotions, not knowing how to process the fact that the truth may have died with Carlito and that he has to deliver the news directly to his sister, who still clearly loves her brother, that he is no more. The pot boils over and we get a resounding...
Shit!
Beautiful delivery, just beautiful. You can hear the frustration and sadness in his voice as saliva is forcibly being pushed out the gaps of his teeth. In the remaster, however...
Shit!
It's really basic and very oddly aggressive. Like I said, it just doesn't hit the same. Across the board, I think the voice acting definitely took a nosedive as well. There were a few voices I kind of came around on. Dave Fennell as Otis is awesome.
You ain't planning on going back down into the mall, are you? I wouldn't do that if I were you. But you young folks never listen to me.
I think Jessie sounding greener than she did before helps her character out a bit.
Calm down, Dr. Barnaby. We're only following orders. We have to protect you.
Protect? More like imprison.
Doctor, if we're going to protect you, we need to know the truth. All of it. Please, talk to us.
And I appreciate that Isabella gets a more natural Hispanic sounding voice.
I don't need any help. You people don't know a thing. You're the ones who caused this nightmare. You ruined Santa Cabeza and started all of this.
But I do greatly prefer her more innocent and youthful voice from the original.
I don't need any help. You people don't know a thing. You're the ones who caused this nightmare. You ruined Santa Cabeza and started all this.
And before I forget, remember that 0.1% of dialogue I was talking about? That is due to the fact that dialogue was added to the game, but there were also bits that were changed that I just can't quite wrap my head around. Two psychopaths in particular had slight tweaks to their dialogue that greatly affects how I perceive them. Cliff had bits of his dialogue changed, omitting his service in Vietnam, something that was the basis of his PTSD.
You can't tell me, can you, fella? Oh yeah, I know why. It's because you're Viet Cong. I'm right, aren't I? You are nothing but a filthy communist!
And it being replaced with generic terms like mole and animal.
You can't tell me, can you, fella? Oh yeah, I know why. It's because you're a mole. I'm right, aren't I? You are nothing but a filthy animal!
In a game where they retained the incredibly anti-US government / mass consumerism themes, a mother and child presumably being eaten alive trying to escape the city, a survivor whose baby was eaten in front of her, and a policewoman who molests and murders women. I don't know why Cliff being a Vietnam vet in particular was seen as something that had to be changed. It works extremely well and is very relevant to the themes of the game, and it helped define him. It gave his tragic story more depth, but now that his story is so general and unspecific, he doesn't stand out as much. Then we have Kent. Kent had one word changed in his dialogue that soured his entire character for me, which is...
Now this is my most emotionally moving shot. Now this is my sexiest shot.
Now this is my most emotionally moving shot. Now this is my funniest shot.
They replaced sexiest with funniest. His underlying creepiness is no more. He's just a straight up dork now. I understand that this change was made because the erotica category was removed entirely from the game, which I also don't get. So his initial quest had to be changed from an erotic photo to a funny photo, which kind of negates the whole fucked up nature of him giving Frank that task in the first place. At first, when you meet up, he just seems like an overeager photographer who's using the outbreak as his opportunity for his big break. He was a cool parallel to Frank. But then you talk to him a bit more and he shows you his gallery, and you see that his intent is much more sinister than previously imagined. Him flipping through his gallery, slowly getting more and more twisted, going from emotionally moving to sexiest to violent. You can kind of see there's something wrong with this guy. When you swap out sexiest for funniest, it lessens the build up to the final confrontation with him trying to zombify Tad. Again, Joe exists, so why Kent needed to be altered this way, I just don't get it. I know you may be asking, how do 3 words being changed alter these characters that dramatically in your eyes? That's because the psychopaths only get mere minutes of screen time. Every word, every camera cut, every gesture, everything matters in personifying them. That brevity and what they're able to accomplish in that little time is what makes these characters in these settings so fascinating. Adam is one of the most popular characters in the series despite not being playable and having like 5 minutes of screen time at most. So when you change even a single word, their purposes and intent differ wildly. And in my opinion, sanitizing them like this makes no sense. It's like I'm playing a Kids Bop version of Dead Rising. That's a lot of bitching for a few words being changed, and to their credit, they did also add a pretty fair amount of dialogue, which I think is dope. I really appreciate that they ended up voicing all of the game's dialogue over, as well as adding a bunch of new lines for survivors and bosses alike. It's a neat way to add more characterization to the people of this world, like Isabella here, shit-talking Frank for awkwardly looking at her in the entrance plaza.
I'm scared someone else's ass!
Kent telling Frank to stick to shooting porn.
You should stick to shooting porn!
And Carlito saying Frank's name in the tunnels, which is massive whiplash for me because I have never ever heard Carlito say anyone's name but Isabella's. That's a lot of effort to go through when a majority of people had no problems with just text. Fully voiced lines makes this exchange with Frank and the Japanese tourists way funnier.
Omachi kudasai, watashi chigao ayashikunai.
お前、もうちょっと慎重に考えろよ。こんなところに取材しに来るやつがいるかよ。あからさまに怪しいぜ。
来るか来ないか早く決めてください.
It gives Thomas a whole new ending, which is something I have wanted for almost 20 years. I'm not even joking. For example, with the family of snipers, instead of just coldly killing all 3, what if there was a way to save Thomas like you saved Paul? You kill his dad and his brother, who were never in their right senses to talk things out anyway, and Thomas willfully surrenders, and you talk to him and get him to the safe house.
I just thought Daddy and Jack liked to hunt for sport. But when all this happened, they became so excited. They said they'd been waiting for a day like this.
Let's go!
I'm staying here with my brother and Daddy. Can't just leave them behind like this.
That is fucking awesome. And survivors can also give you advice for where to find items, what to have in certain situations, or give you more context of the town and the mall before the outbreak. However, the survivors speaking the way they do can be very tonally off-putting. Survivors who have gone through a lot of shit will just casually say things that don't sound right given their circumstances. The survivor that embodies this the most to me is Leah. Her baby was eaten alive and died crying in front of her, all the while she got bitten on the leg with no cure in sight, forcing herself to hide in a jewelry store waiting to die. Her life fucking sucks. Yet, as I was escorting her through Paradise Plaza, she out of nowhere says,
"Hey Frank, look at that. Looks like a cool photo op, no?"
Your baby was eaten in front of you not too long ago, you can't walk, you're infected, and your willingness to live has nearly faded, and you tell Frank that this cardboard stand is a good photo op opportunity? I don't think that fits. There's so many moments like this in the game for me when escorting survivors. It feels awkward a good chunk of the time. These people just casually telling you the secret formula for the Krabby Patty like their lives weren't flipped upside down in the blink of an eye. Look, I know that some of the survivors in the original are silly little goobers when you escort them, but that felt exclusive to those characters, not something that seemingly every survivor shares now. This stuff in general greatly affects the tone of the game. Ever since Dead Rising released, it got this reputation as a goofy, wacky zombie game that compared to Resident Evil, didn't take itself too seriously. I mentioned this in my Dead Rising Needs a Remake video already, but I'm saying it again. I never agreed with that sentiment at all about the first game. Yeah, there's wacky shit in the game for sure, but that exists in its own world where the player can choose to go in and out of whenever they want. Dead Rising has a lot of emotion and darkness at its core, and it's very unapologetic with how it says what it wants to say. Now, if Deluxe Remaster was the game that came out in 2006, I would completely understand the goofy sentiments. Tonally, it just feels way more campy and way less intense and meaningful. All of that was about the voice acting, dialogue, and how important those elements are presented, especially when it comes to talking about the tone. When it comes to the sound design, most of it is intact and identical, if not the same as it was in the original. But there are some glaring differences between actions and items sonically that I don't think are for the better. I consider Dead Rising 1 to have some of the best sound design in anything ever. There's so many distinct sounds with so much identity and weight behind everything that always feels satisfying to do, even after almost 20 years later. And hearing some of those sounds in Deluxe Remaster to me is nothing but underwhelming. Walking on different surfaces, certain blunt objects losing a lot of their pop. Chainsaws no longer having that shearing sharpness. And most notably, the guns. The guns in Deluxe Remaster are so flat and homogeneous in comparison to the original, especially the shotgun. The shotgun is my favorite weapon in all of Dead Rising 1. When you shoot this bitch, it is perfection. There's so much punch to the sound, there's so much exaggerated kickback when you fire, and it obliterates everyone in its path instantly. I've played a lot of video games, okay? This is by far the best sounding shotgun ever. You cannot change my mind. It is a very, very explosive weapon that in Deluxe Remaster doesn't have the same bite. There's another Sonic oddity I wanted to mention, which is Kent's theme. I have no idea what happened to it in transition to Deluxe Remaster, but it is so compressed, so many different elements of the track are completely smushed.
springtime and they get nappy with the rest coming into your room. You get one and then leaving because you can't see it's all good. Just don't relax, get happy because it's springtime and they get nappy with the rest coming into your room. You get one and then leaving because you can't see it's all good.
Yeah, that's really rough. So that was my entire soliloquy on the game's sound. Now I want to talk about the gameplay, and there's a lot to dissect. This is a radically different feeling game in almost every aspect because it is way, way easier. Something Capcom admitted themselves because of all the feedback they got after the original's release. The original is a brutal, punishing, yet very rewarding experience that not everyone is a big fan of and even claim was outdated, so of course things were going to change. That was always obvious. How much would get changed was what I always wondered about, and now I have my answer. The most notable change right off the bat is how insanely easy it is to level up now. I don't know if it's that the level requirement between each level was reduced, if it's that the PP gain alone was buffed, or a combination of both. All I know is that when I got to the rooftop of the mall for the first time and I met Carlito, I was already level 2 from taking pictures of the town. I strolled my way to Entrance Plaza, faced a ton of zombies, took a lot of pictures, went back to the security room, and I was already level 12 before I even got to the roof of the warehouse to rescue Jeff and Natalie. When I went to the grocery store to get medicine for Brad, I was level 25 already. I was level 50 before the special forces even arrived. Look, I am a Dead Rising degenerate. I know all the ways to level up. Rescue all the survivors, nab all the photo books, all the place to shoot in the food court, the sandbags, the treadmills, riding the Space Rider, spinning the display racks, punching the Servbot's face, all the photo op opportunities of survivors and bosses, all the PP stickers, everything. I know everything. I did everything the same between 2 fresh playthroughs of the original and the remaster. I compared the same pockets of time throughout both games, and I was always significantly lower leveled in the original than I was in the remaster. And this is primarily because Frank's camera now gains more PP than ever, which I think is pretty sick in concept. I really like that his camera has more features like tilting, filters, and flashes, and that there's more of a reason to actually use it. But the trade-off is that the rest of the game isn't tuned for the massive PP boost. The camera is a big proponent of that now, but so is rescuing survivors. Survivors in Deluxe Remaster are significantly easier to escort now. Look, I know that they are notoriously stupid in the original and very frustrating to deal with, okay? I know. Funneling into one another on the rooftop, refusing to hop on the vent platform, shout out to the stairs in the remaster by the way, truly doing God's work. Them getting stuck on shit all the time or just flat out killing one another, I know, okay? Pure bullshit. There was no way they weren't ever getting upgraded in a remake or remaster. But in my opinion, the bullshit was part of the fun. The challenge of getting these remedial adults to safety, always, no matter how many times I play through this game, feels rewarding. It keeps me engaged. I always shit my pants when I have to rescue the movie theater survivors because Paradise Plaza is filled wall to wall with zombies who could melt any of these 5 survivors at will. And when I get them past the warehouse, it's so fulfilling, even after doing it a million times already. But in the remaster, it's nowhere near the same feeling of accomplishment as before. Part of that is because they are so autonomous now, akin to Dead Rising 2 survivors, although not on the same level, but I don't think that's the primary issue here. That would be the zombies, who have been tamed down a bunch. They are nowhere near as aggressive or as grabby as they used to be. In the original, it didn't matter if you were level 1 or level 50, your ass was getting grabbed no matter what. And it was dope. Zombies were treated as an obstacle to go through or get around both for you and the survivors. You couldn't just lead a group of them through a horde because they would get swallowed up. And if they did, you had to drop everything you were doing to go rescue them and potentially leave other survivors by themselves who might also get swallowed up. That dynamic is awesome because of how aggressive the zombies are. But now that they are more sedentary than ever, they aren't that fun to interact with anymore. If that isn't underwhelming enough, there's also surprisingly less of them throughout most of the mall. The lower zombie count in this game baffles me because it kind of doesn't make sense. I've seen many direct comparison videos where the remaster is capable of having more zombies on screen, but it rarely feels like that's ever the case outside of like Alfresco Plaza. The area that really opened my eyes as to how little they are in comparison to the original was the maintenance tunnels during the bomb collector mission. The bomb collector mission is one of my favorite video game missions ever. This mission is so sick. The buildup, the tension, the stakes, the urgency, the freaking music that plays when you're down here. Carlito jump scaring the fuck out of you, and most importantly, the zombies. They are jam-packed in these tunnels. It's practically impossible to ignore them down here, especially if your vehicle breaks down. Frank having to get rid of the bombs that would spread zombies outside of Willamette while facing an entire ocean of zombies with Carlito gunning for him is peak video games. In Deluxe Remaster though, there's one tiny problem. Where are the zombies? It's one thing that they're so chill now, but there's so few of them down here. This mission is a cakewalk now, with nowhere near the same level of thrills as before. On top of the zombies being tweaked to be easier, so have a majority of the psychopaths. A lot of them, outside of Sean, are much slower and way more reactable than before. They can still mess you up if you aren't on your A game, and they're a bit spongier health-wise since there's a little bit of damage scaling, but the chances of you getting messed up are lower now. Steven and Cliff are slower, Adam isn't as spry as before, Brock is way easier since they added the QTEs from his boss fight from chop till you drop, and he takes way more damage now. Carlito and the sniper family now take longer to shoot, and they now have red line indicators before they shoot, which is just why? These aren't hard fights in my opinion, so them shooting at you without you knowing at least made you have to be a bit more aware. That, however, is nothing compared to Cletus, who got hit the hardest. He is an absolute menace in the original, giving me all the most explosive backshots any photographer could ever ask for. It's almost impossible to take him head on because of his shotgun damage and his bullet spread, both of which got absolutely nerfed to hell in the remaster. This dude is flaccid now. He can't throw a rock into a body of water if he was in the middle of the ocean. You can just run wall to wall or run around in circles and he will never hit you. I'm not even close to max speed here and I'm outrunning bullets like I'm the Flash. The only opposition that I can say got buffed a little bit are the special forces. They're actually kind of scary this time around because they put you in a lot of hit stun when they shoot you and they will melt your health bar. It's also really cool that there are actually soldiers out in Leisure Park during overtime mode now. I always thought it was odd that they were everywhere but the park in overtime mode, you know, where all the zombies are flooding out from, so I appreciate this a lot. Dead Rising's challenge is one crucial element of the game, but another one is the sense of discovery, which I feel like has been decently streamlined in Deluxe Remaster. There's still secrets to uncover like PP events, secret survivors, and that one psychopath that Otis never calls you about, which is good, but there's also a noticeable effort put towards telling players what to discover and where to through survivor dialogue. Stuff like putting a pan on a stove to fry zombies' faces with, where to find blenders, what to blend, what weapons to find where. I wasn't the biggest fan of survivors spilling the beans on everything initially, but the more time I had to think about it, I realized if you don't save a single survivor in the game, you don't learn anything, which I think is a cool creative compromise. However, I don't think the same of the changes to the survivors log, the clothing lockers, and the PP stickers. When survivors are located, the dates and times they appear in the game are now logged in their profiles in the menu. The clothing locker now tells you where each item of clothing is or what achievement it's locked behind. PP stickers are now treated like visual scavenger hunts, where it flat out shows you the snippet of the sticker alongside the plaza it is in. Look, I know the stickers in the original are ant-sized, so I don't mind that they're a little bit bigger now. I think if they left it at that, it would have been perfect. But detailing them with a photo and the plaza that they're in makes them feel like checklist items rather than things that you actively look for now. The point I'm trying to make is that giving the survivors clothing lockers and PP stickers this much information, in my view, soils the sense of discovery and replayability of the game. If you decide to replay Deluxe Remaster on a carried save, all the survivors, clothes, and PP stickers you discovered are readily accessible from the moment you land on the rooftop, meaning that you no longer have to commit anything to memory. It's all just right there in front of you so you don't forget. That, to me, completely undermines the rewarding nature and incentive of replaying Dead Rising. Getting to know the mall and its inhabitants through playing the game over and over again without an in-game guide is an amazing feeling, and Deluxe Remaster fast-tracking that feeling feels very artificial. There's an overwhelming sense throughout the entire game of it actively telling you, don't worry about it. Don't want to memorize where all the survivors are? Don't worry about it, here you go. Don't want to waste in-game time to go to a shop with your favorite drip in mind? Don't worry about it, just put it on through the clothing locker. Don't want to seek out PP stickers every time? Here you go, sport. Don't worry about it. Don't want to put in the work and give Isabella 10 queens like before? Don't worry about it. Now you only have to give her 5. 5! It's not like this bitch asked you for 100. It was just 10. 10! Oh, you messed up dramatically and forgot to save your progress hours before? Don't worry, the game now autosaves whenever you trigger a boss fight or load into a new area. These changes, to me, while small, undercut what makes Dead Rising so special. It's friction. It's a brutal and punishing game that doesn't care if you mess up, if you forget to save, if you lose your survivor, if you aren't well equipped to tackle what's in front of you, and if you run out of time. But it's also a game that trusts you. It trusts that you will adapt. It trusts that you will survive. It trusts that you will overcome any challenge it throws at you. Survivors, psychopaths, the timer, zombies, all of these things at once. When you conquer the game's stress-inducing elements, there's barely a feeling like that, and the fact that it doesn't let up between playthroughs is fantastic. That's part of its charm, part of its identity. But since so much friction in Deluxe Remaster has been alleviated, it feels like a completely different game where time isn't anywhere near as heavy, despite it being the exact same length between both games. And that's because you don't spend as much time doing things anymore. Cutting down time between traveling to your favorite shop to don your favorite drip and putting a blender in the security room, for example, are very minute things, but they have such a dramatic impact on the timer and your decision making. Don't go out there where it's scary, just change in here. Want to blend something? You don't have to go all the way to Paradise, or the food court, or Alfresca Plaza, just do it right here. Don't want to listen to Otis or the survivors talk? Just skip their dialogues and get a move on. Don't want to get 10 queens? Now you can get 5. And I bring this back up because this is actually something that I found very, very interesting. 10 queens meant you needed to either pack your inventory with queens and make it back with minimal weapons and food, or you needed to make multiple trips. Now that it's 5, that's less time you spend doing that thing. Autosave being a thing in Deluxe Remaster means that is less time you have to spend going to manually save when it just saves for you. And I understand that, 1, autosave has been in the series since Off the Record, and 2, you can turn it off, but it's on by default, so I wanted to test it, and it's so lenient. Like, what is the point of the timer if it just saves for you? All these quality of life changes has significantly lessened the overall decision making and the time you spend making them. On top of that, leveling up in the remaster doesn't feel anywhere close as rewarding as the original, where you had to work harder for your levels. It made the journey of going from sluggish and underpowered at level 1 to basically Superman at level 50 worth so much. All those struggles of escorting more than a few survivors at a time and seeing your levels go up by only like 2 or 3 felt incredible. But since you level up so fast and so frequently in Deluxe Remaster, the progression no longer wants players to earn their worth, it feels. It just wants to get you to the quote-unquote fun faster. It's like they want you to experience everything the first time through. The original is balanced and tuned in a way that encourages you to replay it so that you could learn from your mistakes, give things another go with the knowledge you have with the opportunity to learn more. It's almost like a roguelike in a way. To me, the fun of Dead Rising is not just killing zombies. I know the games are marketed that way since it's easier for the masses to understand, but what makes Dead Rising fun to me is its emphasis on welding survivors, bosses, secrets, challenges, and zombie killing together. But since the remaster focuses on getting to the fun of killing zombies faster than it focuses on anything else, streamlining those other elements to be excessively transparent in order to enhance the zombie killer aspect of it feels very safe. And the thing is, the zombie killing part of things, in terms of gameplay, feels so much sloppier and sluggish than before. I adore how it feels to play the original. It's snappy, it's punchy, there's so much weight and power behind everything, the visual and sonic feedback together is unparalleled. Crushing zombies with sledgehammers, cutting them to shreds, getting these sick freeze frames when you hit zombies, watching blood spill and spatter everywhere, it's so tactile, it feels so fucking good. Deluxe Remaster doesn't in comparison. No hit stop, no freeze frames, zombies going in polar opposite directions of where you hit them, extremely tame usage of blood. There's a lot of reasons. One of them being how much visual jank there is, my goodness. There is so much goddamn clipping in this game, it is crazy. The original has clipping too, but it is nowhere near the level of this. It is beyond distracting. I mean, do you see this shit, Hanamaru-chan? Is Frank secretly Martian Manhunter or something? He might as well be because he phases through zombies so fucking often and it impacts the gameplay greatly. In the original, zombies are solid objects that you have to engage with. There's an actual collision system in place. It's paramount to half of Frank's moveset. But I don't think Deluxe Remaster has one, and if it does, it's extremely inconsistent. It is so hard just to do the basic zombie ride in Deluxe Remaster because I never know when Frank is going to clip through a zombie or not. The physics in general are so out of whack here. Hammer throwing people feels so weightless because they rarely collide. The game is very floaty. Whenever Frank gets launched, it's like he's falling in slow motion. He jumps really high and really far like he's wearing moon shoes. Zombies go flying in directions disproportionate from where they actually got hit, and whenever they're sent flying, they awkwardly stop in midair. It's weird. Actually, hold on. Disregard everything I just showed you because all you really need to see are the suplexes. Observe how they look in the original. Quick, snappy. Frank rockets whoever is in his grasp to the ground, and it's awesome. Now let's look at them in the remaster. Do you see how long it takes for them to hit the ground? There's other things in the game that feel off visually, like the sudden zoom-ins on zombie grabs now being so visually disconnected. Before, getting grabbed was like a jump scare, like, oh shit, you're under attack, do something. But in the remaster, on occasion, there's so much delay between the grab and the zoom-in. Same thing with the doors. Opening these have their own event angles, and you could use them to hit zombies or survivors. Not the case here. They just open and close freely now. Yeah, I know, very, very minute, okay, I know. But it's part of the Dead Rising experience, and the small stuff being gone is noticeable. You know what else is noticeable? A good chunk of Frank's walking and running animations being completely gone. He's very reactive in the original. It's incredibly immersive watching him change his idle and active movements based on the situation. If he's around zombies, he's on edge with his head on a swivel whether he's standing or he's running. He also had really cool damage animations. Hunching over, trying to catch his breath, holding his torso as he desperately tries to get to safety, and my favorite being him staggering like crazy, struggling to keep his balance as he runs. It helps sell the stakes and urgency of everything going on, and it helped characterize Frank. In the remaster, he's just really stoic. He doesn't react to anything. He's so nonchalant about everything, and that's not even the worst of it. Can you believe that Frank no longer gobbles up gluten glizzies like this anymore? And you know what's worse than that? Can you believe that Frank can no longer spin in place now? Absolute bullshit. There's plenty of other things that I could highlight, like aiming while shooting on the modern control scheme, completely trivializing bosses since they were not updated to handle that. The weird omission of the beginning of the Case 2 cutscene where it completely removes Frank and Brad being tired waiting for a blip in the monitor all night. All of the in-game text being formatted to look super plain, including the epilogue, removing any personality it had in the original. And probably a lot more if I put a magnifying glass on top of my magnifying glass that's already underneath another magnifying glass. But we are creeping up on the hour mark, and I'm sure you understand what I'm putting down at this point. You'd be fair and just in assuming that I totally despise this game and think it's a total disgrace given how long I've been talking for. But the thing is, I don't. I really don't. There's a lot of elements of Deluxe Remaster that I think go in the polar opposite direction, but I also do admire and appreciate quite a good bit of it. They put a lot of fucking effort and a lot of extra shit into this that I will not just willfully ignore. I already mentioned a lot of stuff, like the mall being absurdly gorgeous, Thomas now able to get a different ending, adding tons of voice dialogue, the stairs outside the security room, but there's a ton of other things, like adding a lot of cut environmental details that didn't make it into the original, remodeling all of the non-usable weapons like the fucking beam gun that I'm very sure they only did for Stippo, which is incredible. I love that Brad's gun now has one bullet left in the chamber for Frank to finish him off with. It's cool as hell that they added a rocket launcher. Being able to escort more than 8 survivors at a time is awesome. It's commendable that they added a survivor affinity system to try and personify the survivors, even though I didn't use the system at all. I love all the new costumes they added that were also bundled with their own songs that you can play throughout the mall. I played the Resident Evil 1 save theme a bunch. Plus, the fucking Willamette Bee being a costume is like the ultimate fan service if you're really deep into this shit. I think it's awesome that bikes can now go anywhere they want sans the security room and helipad. Massive props for keeping all the licensed music in the game. Licensed music can be a bitch to handle, especially for a game from almost 20 years ago. I also greatly appreciate the time forwarding mechanic, allowing people to speedrun the game without needing to use mods. It also makes capturing footage way easier, trust me. I think Infinity Mode is much improved in Deluxe Remaster. Having a temporary save state that gets wiped when you die alone would have been more than enough for me since the original Infinity Mode doesn't have that at all, which I never really understood, but whatever. But they also added special forces and cultists to the mix after day 3, making surviving way more tense, and time forwarding now makes the 5-day and 7-day survivor achievements way more attainable, which may sound sacrilegious to Dead Rising faithful. Look, I adore Dead Rising to death, okay? I don't have 14 consecutive spare hours anymore. I fucking wish I did, okay? I really love that they added all new magazines that have completely new effects, like being able to use all of Frank's combat moves when you're below level 50, turning anything you throw, including soda cans, into explosive projectiles, a magazine that gives your weapons infinite use, and most importantly, the magazine that allows you to blend anything with anything. You can blend shit to create a rocket launcher. Can I really hate Deluxe Remaster if it allows me to do this?
You'll be my personal escort. What a polite boy.
Boy? Boy?
It became personal with me.
My granny, she got hit by a bazooka. Yeah, I think about it every time I hit the hookah. Kaboom, kablow, kaboom.
I mentioned earlier that I am the worst person to talk about Deluxe Remaster because of my immeasurable love for the original, which had a huge effect on the making of this video. Things no one else cares about are things I obsess over, and I'm sure you've looked at me side-eyed a couple of times during this video, especially when I harped on fucking doors. But I know a lot of Dead Rising faithful who are more absolute than I am that have completely renounced and disowned Deluxe Remaster, which I can understand since the first game is the holy grail in the fandom, and remaking anything is something I view as an impossible task. Every remake that comes out now seems damned if they do, damned if they don't, because they all walk such a thin tightrope. Remake something one-to-one, oh, why did you remake this game? Just for a shinier coat of paint to cash in on nostalgia? Remake something and change too much? Oh, why did you ruin my childhood like that? Why didn't you just stick to the script? Remakes are forever doomed in terms of never-ending discussion because there are so many differing opinions as to the purpose they should serve. Should they be complementary experiences? Should they be completely different experiences since the original already exists? Should they be replacements as they are believed to be by every video game company on the planet? I will never have the time to sow through that conversation, but when it comes to Deluxe Remaster, I'll say this: I don't see it as a replacement. Mostly because the original is readily available and it's $10. In the back of my mind, I knew that when I was asking for a remake of this game a couple of years ago that it wouldn't be exactly how I envisioned it to be. There's a lot of precedents about the first game to live up to, precedents that a lot of people in 2006 and beyond didn't particularly enjoy that much. Hell, I got a few people who never played Dead Rising to play it over the last 2 years, and the loudest complaints I got from them pertain to the lack of autosave, the survivor AI, and how crushing the timer feels. Feedback echoed from almost 2 decades ago that was addressed in Deluxe Remaster that I in turn am bitching about now. The bullshit that most people didn't like about the original is the same bullshit I adore. Even though these two games are almost completely one-to-one, they are vastly different experiences in my eyes. One is a punishing experience that wants you to feel the struggle of succeeding against impossible odds, and the other is kind of like an anniversary party where they want you to relax, have fun, don't push yourself too hard, and enjoy all the extras they weren't able to afford or think of 20 years ago. I will always shill for the original, there's nothing that will ever surpass it for me, and while I don't love Deluxe Remaster, I do appreciate it because the door is open now. Capcom themselves said that Deluxe Remaster was performing to their expectations, which to me means, hey, there's still some interest in this, and it's a great opportunity for fans to provide feedback. For the longest time, I wasn't so sure Dead Rising would ever come back in a significant way because it was nowhere to be seen after 2017. No social media acknowledgements, no anniversary posts, no additional TV or movie adaptations, no costumes or references to the series in other Capcom games outside of Frank being an MVCI, nothing. It's like it didn't exist for 7 years. All of a sudden, it returns, and there's a huge media blitz for it everywhere I looked. Key art, posters, freaking Teppen cards where Joe the mall cop is Nero's prison warden, or Frank killing zombies in Metro City with Luke and Jamie. I didn't ask for a remake because I thought it would be better or anything like that. That was never the case. I asked for a remake so we could have Dead Rising back, and with the way it's looking, since a certain something got leaked a bit ago, it's back. It's actually back. That's all I ever really wanted in the end. So yeah, that's my entire spiel about Deluxe Remaster. I am sorry this video took forever to come out. It has been a clawing monkey on my back for forever, and now that it's finally gone, I just want to do more. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Deluxe Remaster or anything Dead Rising related, so please leave your comments down below, like and sub if you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching.